Grand Risings. What's up, everybody? We're going to talk about the Exodus path that I've been on for a couple of months now. Feels like an eternity. But I want to try to bring comprehension to what the Exodus path really is. In order to fully comprehend what I'm meaning by an Exodus path, you have to look at the world around you from a different paradigm than what we're used to looking at the world from. You know, Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy. I, in my life, have found this to be profoundly true. Energy is everything. And there are so many layers to that, to the implications of that, that we could get lost in that conversation for, days on end. But it's very true. Energy is the most fundamental. I don't want to say the most. Well, let's just speak as if it is, right? It is the most fundamental structural. Sorry, I got distracted. Energy is the foundation of the material world. We know this now by observing quantum mechanics. So, when we have realization of this, it brings insight into the process of alchemy. And again, alchemy is a living process of transmutation that is happening all around us. And as an alchemist, you could spend, thousands of hours learning and expanding your knowledge on the process of alchemy. It's super interesting. But me personally, what I tend to focus on is energetic alchemy. So the alchemy of frequency, and that's where the money is, right? That's where you really begin to see the foundation of the material world around us. And when I really began to see the world from this perspective, I began to see the cage, right? A lot of people talk about it, the false grid, the lattice, and all of these things. And a lot of people choose to look at these energetic structures like an evil cage, like humanity has been placed in a cage malevolently, and it is being experienced that way by billions of people on the planet. There is a lot of what could be perceived as evil happening on the planet. And I became lost in that for many years. I became lost in that war, the consciousness war or the spiritual war, for a long time. It's easy to get lost in that, because when you're stuck in the hero's journey, right? That archetypal journey, the hero's journey, then you feel like the villain must be engaged with righteousness, and you feel like it must be conquered. And in a sense, you can say that what I'm speaking of does that, It does conquer evil, and it does conquer what people see as Satan, but it does so with the realization of the true nature of what evil is, and the roots of evil, and what is the actual most powerful way of engaging it, and that is transcendence. That is finding realization that evil is you, and that the cage exists because you built it. And this dream of forgetting, going into the forgetting, we built that. We are the light and we are the dark. We are the good and we are the evil. So, in the hero's journey is a construct, and it has been lived over and over and over. That dream has been experienced, and the hero's journey, has been lived and experienced by many souls. And so I'm not saying it's not a real thing. What I'm saying is if we want to, not if we want to, what I'm saying is it's time to remember, and it's time to transcend that whole process, and that's what we're doing, right? We're remembering. Humanity is beginning to remember the origins of the cage, and in remembrance of the origins of the cage, and in realization that all is energy, and in the realization of our origin frequency, who we really are, that's when we begin to transcend those parts of ourselves that are reflecting back to us the symptoms of the forgetting, the darker parts of ourselves, the beliefs of lack, and the beliefs of survival, that we have to suffer to survive, and that there's something to endure for us to prosper. There's a better way. There's a better way. And it's inevitable that we will, as a collective, experience that better way. As the eternal flame, as consciousness itself, we go on these journeys. We are the creator and the observer. And as individual souls, we are the Creator's children. We are the Creator's children, eternally and forever, experiencing the Creator's fields of creation. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful experience. But it does include darkness, and it does include suffering, and it does include evil. But as eternity, there is beauty in that evil. There's beauty in that forgetting thyself. We get to have the expansive and powerful experience of remembering thyself. And we get to have the powerful experience of appreciating our wholeness and our fullness from the realization of what it's like to forget thyself. So the Exodus is a returning to thyself. It is a remembering of thyself. But what we're going to experience, is the blossoming of that remembering in all forms that it could possibly exist. Because the Creator doesn't just experience itself, in the forgetting or in the remembering or in its wholeness. It experiences itself on all of those variations. It experiences itself in all variations of those variations. So in every possible imaginable form of that experience, it is going to experience. So in other words, everything you can imagine does exist and will exist in some time-space continuum. And it exists right now, in this very moment, because all that exists is the eternal now. The experience of time passing is illusory. It is real. It is real because it is real to you here and now. But it is also illusory because when you transcend this individuality, when you transcend this experience, and you are returned to your fullness, your wholeness, all that exists is the eternal now. And I wrote some pieces on time, and I'll just talk really quick about an experience that I had back, I believe it was like 2011 or 2012. I was going through a really dark time, and and I had nothing material-wise. I had nothing. I was struggling with addiction at the time, and I had recently come back from the military, and I had a lot of darkness that I was healing. Not just from the military, just in essence, I was filled with a lot of darkness. And in my personal journey, I have chosen to endure a taste of every kind of darkness you can imagine. I mean, and I'll get into that another time. But I was in a really dark place, and I found myself sitting in my yard at the time, and it was a really hot day, cicadas, chirping, humid outside, nothing to eat. I was withdrawing from addiction, had no money to go get my dope, I had no job at the time, I think. I might have actually had a job, because I've always worked. Very few times have I not been earning money or working for my money. But I was broke because of addiction. But I was sitting there in meditation, and, well, I didn't even know what meditation was. But I had went into a meditative state. And it was a deep one. And there was a anthill that was really close to me. And for whatever reason, I just began to contemplate very, very heavily on what it's like to be that ant. I was watching a specific ant and following its path and watching it. And I began to really just go into the beingness of that ant, and I was fascinated with it. As I was doing that, it was like Spirit was pulling me out of myself. And now that I I do work in the astral as a quantum etheric alchemist. I do work in the astral realms. I comprehend. I know what was happening. I'm trying to speak from the perspective that I was in at the time. But I left my consciousness and I became the ant. And when I became the ant, I was soaking in all of the experience of being that ant. And that was a lot of information. But I'm going to focus on time. because that was the most profound thing that stuck with me, was the way that time was passing. And if you ever watched the movie Ants, it was just like that. It was like everything that was happening in comparison to a human, and everything was happening in slow motion. And to some, that might pass by them, and they might not. What's up, everybody? Much love, guys. I appreciate you being here. So, I had realization that time was being perceived by that ant differently. So when I came back into myself, that stuck with me, and I just kept contemplating that, and it kept coming into my consciousness. And I realized that flies, ants, rabbits, other beings are experiencing time passing very differently than the human. And to me now, this information is like kindergarten information, and to many of you it may be as well. But it was a profound shift in my consciousness. And like I said, this was around 2011 or 12. I believe it would have been 2012. So if it brought all of these questions to my consciousness, and it stuck with me to this day. And it was a huge part in my realization of how consciousness operates. And so I realized that time is totally being perceived biologically. We are operating in these biological vessels, right? It's like the spaceship of the soul. You know, it is biological technology. And I view biology as a very highly advanced form of technology. But I see technology differently than what many do as well. But I see biology as a very highly advanced form of technology. But I now see experiencing time as experiencing various forms of energetic structures through the perspective of that biological technology. We can only perceive the quantum world around us with the biological tools that we have to perceive it. So my eyes, my ears, my nose, my everything, I'm perceiving the quantum world with the tools that I have to perceive it. And your metabolism has a lot to do with that, and the chemistry that's happening inside of your body. Sending you love, Francisco. What's up? But you have the chemistry that's happening in your body, and all of these variables that make up you and your experience of that eternal now. And all the way down to your paradigm, your way of thinking. Your paradigm affects the way that you perceive time. And we know that because when we go into meditation, time changes. Our biology changes. So your way of thinking affects your experience of passing time. So all of those realizations brought, again, so many implications, and it brought me into the eternal moment. And I've experienced the eternal moment by transcending the vessel, transcending the body, by doing what some call remote viewing, by traveling into the astral, into other dimensions. You know, it's all happening now. And your singularity has the capacity to maneuver through. What up, Andrew? Your singularity has the capacity to maneuver in the structure of the quantum now. And this dream that we are in, again, is an energetic structure. It is built on that structure based on consciousness. And so when you begin to see the world from this paradigm, when you begin to have perception on those constructs, and you begin to break them down into different alchemical variables, from paradigms, ways of belief, to more material constructs, then you begin to have the realization that, how it was built. Not just that we built this. We being the eternal flame, being consciousness. We built this cage for ourselves. This dream of the forgetting thyself. Not only did we build it, but we now have the capacity and the authority to restructure it, to become the architect of the new dream, right? The new earth. You see, there are entities and there are beings that know this. They know this. They have realization of this, and they thrive on being the driving force of dampening your gnosis. Right? There's a certain portion of the collective that have mastered becoming the dream weavers. And it's not evil, right? It is, but it's not. It is you, but you have to realize that there are forces that exist. Yes, being one. That's it, brother. That is it. I'm glad y'all can hear me. Thank you, Solomon. Much love, brother. And so we have the capacity, right? So what is an exodus? It's not an escape. We're not escaping those forces that are dampening our awakening. We're not escaping those forces that built the cage. We're realizing that they are us. And then we're standing in our new authority, our old authority. We're standing in authority of becoming the architects of the new earth. Not seeing them as an enemy. You do that, you're creating the architecture for war. You're feeding the architecture that perpetuates the forgetting. So you're not hating them. You're not raising your sword at them. You're not going to war with those forces. I've done it. I think everybody that's actually listening now knows what's up. But for those of you who, maybe are at war with those forces now, see yourself as a targeted individual, that see yourself as being spiritually handled. I still struggle with some of these programs that's why I've been so quiet here recently. I've been going deep into an alchemical process to shed those more, because I've had the intellectual gnosis of this, but I've been struggling with those energetic structures that I built within myself from being a warrior for so long. And even having gnosis of transcendence, I was creating more war for myself. I was perpetuating that. So I've been really doing the work of healing myself. And so we have the capacity to become the architects of the new earth. And that's what's happening with the inevitable remembering. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's a beautiful experience. And it's going to be an exponential growth. So as we remember, the more we grow, the more we know. The more we know, the more we grow. Returning to the singularity is going to be an exponential journey. It's going to blossom. It's going to blossom and explode. It's going to be a powerful experience, but a beautiful experience. For some people who go through an awakening, that even becomes scary, because it's like, wait a minute, I kind of like this, right? It's like, I kind of like this journey. I mean, I kind of like, I like that goal I set of buying a truck. I mean, I'm halfway there, right? You know? But what's happening is inevitable, and it's beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. So, but the Exodus path is in my view kind of an inevitable blossoming, because we're going to experience the fruits of the remembering on all variations of the spectrum, you know? And that's why I don't come on here talking about mimics. I don't come on here talking about you know, I don't diss anyone. I don't come on here talking shit about anybody's state of mind, because I have realization that not only is it all valuable, it's all, you know, purposeful. There is no state of consciousness that is not in divine alignment. So even those ones that are out there acting a fool, right? There's purpose for that. Especially as an alchemist, I better find purpose in that, because a huge part of my beingness is to have the capacity to take negative energy and alchemize it for higher good. So, and that, you know, alchemy is an expansive topic, and, you know, I would love to have some people to, you know, talk to about that, but as an alchemist, you know, I see every form of consciousness as important. Not only important, but inevitable. And I myself have been on various states of being and states of consciousness in my growth. So I never diss someone. And I don't believe in mimics and NPCs. I don't. I see every bit of beingness, even material world, I see that as living consciousness. I see it as important. I see it as sacred. And I comprehend that the expression of mimics and the expression of NPCs exist, especially when people believe in it, and we perpetuate and feed the beingness of NPCs and mimics. It's just like evil. So I realize that the expression of evil is existing. What I don't do is feed that expression with belief or with engaging it with more negativity. I see it as part of myself healing. And if I'm forced to engage it, then I engage it with that authority. I engage it with that love. So, and authority. Love's not always pretty. Love's not always nice, right? It doesn't mean that I'm going to attack them. It doesn't mean that I'm going to become aggressive. It's authority. It's authentic authority, which is just standing firm in who you know you are and being unmovable. And that is, in my way of beingness, that is I guess you could say, defense, offense, whatever. I don't look at it like that, but it is, that's how you stand against those forces. And you're not even standing against them, you're standing with them in realization. You know, you're looking in the mirror and you're saying, no, this is who I am. And you're not going to move me. You know? And the middle way is not an easy path. It's not an easy path. To find the true middle way is not easy. And when you get knocked off of the middle way, because you will, you don't shame yourself. And you don't look at yourself and say, oh boy, you know, I suck. You know? I mean, you can if you want, if that's productive. But if it tears you down, you don't tear yourself down. Because you're not less than just because you forgot for a moment who you are. You are going through the journey. You're going through your path, right? So, and everyone else is as well. But the Exodus is alchemically perceiving all of these energetic constructs, right? Engaging those energetic constructs with authentic authority. You know, returning to the origin frequency. It's just like, for me, I did a name change. Okay? For me, my perspective of the I am that I am is nameless. It is all that is. But it's okay to have a name. But if you want to transcend, this is a personal thing. It's what and ancient civilizations used to do this as well. They used to go through these processes of sacred rites and initiations, and so what I did was I went through a process of changing my name. Not legally, because I don't believe in legally, right? It's a construct. I'm in the process of going through an exodus from all of those constructs of the justice system and, maritime law, the law of the land, judges and presidents and commanders, kings and queens. I have no leaders. I have no leaders, and I speak that authentically. I am just as sacred as those beings that portray themselves in those forms of beingness. I have no leaders. I vote for remembrance every time I step out my front door in this beingness. I vote for remembrance in all vessels every time I have a new realization. Yeah. Law and lore. I love that. And so the Exodus path, right? I'll let you guys check out the back of this. I don't know if you can see it. But the Exodus path is consciously engaging all of those constructs with authority, with sovereignty. Yes, we are spirit-led. That's right. So, finding true energetic sovereignty, right? Finding true sovereignty is not just intellectual. It is becoming it. And that's easier said than done. And I'm living that path right now. I have been for a few months. So remembering thyself is the first step. Remembering and looking and seeing through the veil and looking out the window of the cage is the first step. The next step is burning the fucking house down, right? Excuse my language, but I don't believe in all the negativity behind cursing. You know, it's all in here. It's all in the energy. It's all in the spirit. But the next step is to burn that fucking house down. And from there, you know, you can then, yeah, becoming versus being, right? Actually, I like that. I like that because I say becoming, and it's more about being, right? But becoming is going to happen in the being, in the beingness. But if you really want to become, you have to step into the being of it, which is, you know, different than becoming as well. So that's an important step that, you know, I actually talk about. And that was a hard realization for me. And I seen Solomon King, I seen him, if he's still here, talk about that before. So, much love, Patty. Beautiful, beautiful. And, but I had, in my personal journey, I have a lot of difficult blockages to transcend. I have children, and I've gone through a difficult litigation process to just to have the right to my children. And it is a unique journey because I was raising my girls. I've always provided for my girls. I've always been a good father. I've always been a loving father. I've always provided. I've always had a home. I've been through hundreds of drug tests, never failed a drug test. I've always had a job. I have, I've met all of those, you know, criteria, even legally, for the best interest of a child. Yet I've been engaged in litigation for my children and been treated like a criminal. I have fought over 26 false allegations. I've been called some of the worst things of the worst things. Through alchemy, I have survived. Through sovereignty, I have survived. Through remembering who I am and not allowing those projections to distort my life, I have survived. And my children are still in my life. But it's been highly destructive on my business, on my life, on my relationship with my children. But I've endured altogether 9 years of litigation. And we're talking thousands of dollars a month. I'm a single adult household, and I'm the only income. I'm the only parent in the house. I was running it all. If you know me, like you know, but if you go through my Facebook and you go to the beginning of my journey, and that's why I had a deep hatred, a volatile hatred for our system, for the judges involved. I had a lawyer that was malpracticing. He was my lawyer, and I caught him in communication with the other party and doing a lot of things. And he gave me a false document that if I would have followed that false document, I would have been held in contempt of court. It was spirit that led me to see the truth. And when I caught that, I didn't follow the advice of the document, which saved my ass. So I went and fired that lawyer. And he looked me in the eyes and he told me, he said, "This is our city, boy, and there's no help for you." And I looked him right back in the eye and I said, you know, I was willing to fight and die for this country and for you and for all of your clients sitting out in that hallway. What makes you think I'm not going to fight for that little girl? And so the journey that I've been on it's not just litigation. I've been engaging real forces in my local community, real forces that subjugate sovereignty. It's what they do, you know. They prey on vulnerable situations. They cultivate vulnerable situations and then prey on them, right? And this is, again, when I talk about evil, when I speak on these things, I'm not here to go to war with them anymore. I did that for a long time, and I survived a lot of it. I'm here to stand in sovereignty to those forces. I'm here to stand in authority to those forces. And to say, no more. No more. So, finding, and I believe that all of that was the ultimate test for me to find love for them. But I can honestly sit here and I can tell you that lawyer today, I have found love for him. There's judges that have brought so much, that I, in my perspective at the time, had brought so much destruction and damage on my children, on my life, and are still looming today. Those forces, I have had to find true unconditional love for them. Because when I realized I'm you and you are me, that was a hard one for me. But you don't blossom if you refuse to say, that's me doing that to myself. You don't blossom. You stay stuck. And you might intellectually know, but you'll never feel it. So those forces, I believe, exist for a purpose. We created them. And when I discuss them, I'm not discussing them as if they are my enemy anymore. Okay? Lots of those beings see me as an enemy for sure. But I love them. I do. I love them all. And I believe in our capacity as a collective to heal those forces, right? To heal them and transmute them into a more positive way of being this, you know. So the Exodus path is having realization that everything happens in the spirit first. All of the constructs that you see materially, all of existence around you, first exists in the spirit. It exists in quantum. It has energetic structure first. It's then realizing that we, humans, we have the right, we have the authority to transmute those structures. So if you're someone who's sitting in your house, and you see the world around you, and you see all of these forces that you don't like, you have to realize that you do have the power to change that. And you don't have to go out in your streets. You don't pick up a gun, and you don't fight it with aggression. You do stand in authority by remembering who you are. And you remember who you are by learning to love those forces. Okay? And that's why the false grid, the illusion, thrives on diversity. right? Not diversity, but division. It thrives on pegging you against one another, on tribalism. People like to believe that tribalism is in our nature. No. Programming is in our nature. We have the authority and the capacity to become whatever we seek to become. Tribalism has been in our nature for thousands of years because it was programmed that way. Because we continue to feed these constructs. And those constructs become a part of us. But again, they exist on an energetic foundation. On a foundation of consciousness. So the Exodus, that's why I went through changing my name. Because my birth name is tied to a birth certificate. It's tied to a social security number. It's tied to the United States Corporation. It's tied to the structure of a commodity. And excuse me for, feeling I'm better than that, but I am. Right? I do not deserve, and neither do you, to be siphoned of my spiritual essence. Okay? The flame, the eternal beingness within you has been monopolized for thousands of years through these energetic constructs of religion, government, ideas, education systems, beliefs that you lack, beliefs that you have to fall in line and follow the crowd. You owe those systems nothing. You owe them nothing. And you gave yourself away unconsciously. And by engaging in those systems every day, you continue to do so. What people have to realize is that an exodus can be a graceful remembering of yourself. We can gracefully transition from the old into the new. What's inevitable is that transition is going to happen. It's inevitable that we are going to transition into the remembrance of thyself. The question is how graceful is that fall to grace going to be? Right? We fell from grace, we're falling back to grace. But how graceful is it going to be? Are you going to do it fearfully? Is there going to be chaos? Or are we going to work together and remember together and engage this with authority from the most fundamental root, and that is energetically. So your religions, your governments, your justice systems, your education systems, your corporate empires, all of them exist on an energetic foundation. You know? And we are remembering that. What a lot of people are struggling with is really finding faith in their sovereignty and finding faith in their power to burn the fucking house down. Okay? And people are afraid of living in lack. And that's why I'm going through this Exodus path myself. I have been. Well, Spirit led me to go through this a long time ago in 2018. And that's why I had Force Vibes, that blog. And then I started going through hell for my daughter. And and I started living in fear. But now I'm standing in sovereignty, true sovereignty, and I'm standing in authority. And I am forging that path. Because when you realize how those energetic constructs exist, they exist archetypally. So when I go through this path, whether I live through it, die in it, or whether nobody follows me today or not, just by me going through this path, I'm forging a path energetically. I'm creating a blueprint for a path to others' true sovereignty. And it's happening all over the planet in different forms and different ways. But every illness needs its own medicine, right? Has its own antidote. So it depends on your beingness and the programs that you are existing in now, what you really require in order to accomplish that sovereignty. But the one thing's for sure, you've got to burn the fucking house down, and you've got to let those constructs die. This is not a new concept. This is, more Eastern philosophical, concepts realize this. That this is an ancient concept. I'm just building my own path, coming from the symptoms of my forgetting, and coming from the energetic trap that I was in. And that is a more American, modern, energetic cage. So, and there are many layers to that cage that I'm not discussing here. And that's a deep conversation. And, if you're listening to this and you want to know more about that, reach out to me. But I am in the midst of an alchemical process of the Exodus. I'm in the midst of it now. Yeah, the shit is hard. People look at you like you're nuts. People don't respect that, especially when their ultimate goal in life is to buy that truck. Or especially when they are afraid of the God they were told is God, right? And a lot of people use my hardships as evidence that I am, being controlled by the devil, or that I need to find Jesus. Yes, it is a much more Eastern concept, for sure. And that there are prophecies that will blossom in the United States. So it's happening. Because we're seeing through the bullshit. But where was I at? Oh, I lost track. I think I lost track. I think I did lose track of what I was saying. Oh, yeah, my journey has been hard. People are, confused at what I'm doing, especially because I'm in a process of litigation. But, what they don't realize is my eternal self realizes that if I ever want to see my children, my children's children, and their children truly thrive in the remembrance of who they are and their spiritual power, then it's got to end sometime. And just because I have hardships in my life doesn't negate the importance of that process blossoming. It's in my soul. It's in my beingness. It's been in me since I can remember. So I find purpose in that. I find value in that. And I realize that I'm never going to be fulfilled if I keep feeding the illusion. I'm never going to be fulfilled if I live in fear. Fear comes in all kinds of disguises. You know, I have been through things in my life that would drive a man mad. I've been brought to the threshold of the void, and I have stared Ein Sof in the eyes. And into the void of all creation and all nothingness through fear and suffering. Okay? This, what I'm going through, is nothing compared to fearing for your child's life. You know, these hardships are nothing compared to fearing that you're going to lose your child. But, you know, I would never have fully been capable of doing this without that fear. You know, because yes, this corresponds with the hemisphere of the brain too. That's so important, because when you realize as within, so without. Okay, just like me doing this live. The moment when I tried to sit down here and start doing this live, started getting all these text messages and things distracting me, negative energetic feelings, because as within, so without. Because I'm running programs of the old world still in my deeper layers of consciousness. I'm still running some of those old programs, and they manifest outside of us. And the collective consciousness is creating the world around us. And that's why it's so important to find true love in all of the diversity of thyself, even in the foolishness and in the evil. You know, when we chose to live this dream of duality, of good and evil, light and dark, hot and cold, loud and quiet, up and down, whatever. When we chose to experience the reality of duality, right? When Eve ate the apple from the tree of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, we fell from grace. Right? So we forgot who we were. And we were split into the reality of duality. Those are deeper layers of the construct. But it's not an evil or a bad thing. It's simply a choice to experience eternal consciousness in the experience of duality. We chose this. And also, we choose every path we take. But I don't, you know, a lot of people have all these ideas about reincarnation and all these things, and I'm just going to, this is my personal perspective. Consciousness exists on many states of beingness, on many layers, and that is manifesting in many forms of expression. Okay? But it's all me. And it is all you. I am you and you are me. So death is illusory in my book. And the experiences of sin and good and evil, all of these things are just experiences. And the experience of being Lucius, right? Patrick, for the ones who are my local people, right? The experience, again, I'm going through an Exodus journey. That's why I am Lucius, okay? I've taken on a new energetic structure by name. So, as Lucius, when I die, I am going to go back into the wholeness of myself, the oneness, right? But I believe that there are layers of consciousness. So we have the experience of reincarnating souls. Like, I am a fragment of my higher soul. And that higher soul has its own little bush, its own little tree of life. And it is living many lives at once in many time-space continuums. Because the eternal moment is not bound by time. So I could be a soldier right now in 1942 in a totally parallel universe, experiencing there. My higher soul is experiencing many lifetimes at once. And that higher soul is a fragment of a higher layer of consciousness. And that is a fragment of a higher state of consciousness, all the way back to the singularity. So, in my perspective, perpetual consciousness is what exists. Perpetual life. And it is experienced in a linear format to a degree on some layers of consciousness, but it is also experienced in every fathomable way you can imagine. So there is no truth in my beingness. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I do have trouble pronouncing your name, and I'm so sorry for that. I just suck at that. Maybe I should ask AI. I'll do that, brother. That's why I call you my eternal brother always, because I'm still learning how to pronounce your name. But you are. But I'm so grateful that you put that there, because a lot of people in my local area, a lot of people in my life don't comprehend me changing my name. Yeah. So it's a real practice, and it exists. Yeah. Yes. And see, you have 3 names, and I'm in the process of going. See, Lucius is the name I'm carrying through my Exodus process, because it's all energetic construct. Okay. So when I reach that point, I want to shed all of that process. So I will carry a new name when my process is completed, because I don't want to stay stuck. It's like rehab. You know, I hate the way rehab does their recovery system, and I believe it's intentional, but they run these people through these processes, continuously telling them that they are recovering addicts. You will always and forever be an addict. They tell them that, and to make them fear relapse. But in my mind, it binds you to that energetic structure of being an addict. So you're going to have a much better. Speaking from quantum gnosis, you're going to have a much. Those doors are still going to be possibly open to you for relapse. So there's a much higher likelihood that you're going to relapse if you stay bound to that identity, and I hate that about them. I'm so grateful that my daughters being born saved my life, because I was really bad. I I was a heroin addict, and I was destroying my life. I was doing anything and everything that came at me. I was very self-destructive. But if I would have stayed bound to this ideology that I'm an addict, I never would have transcended. And that's what in essence, that's what the Exodus path is to the construct of the old world. Praja. Is that correct? Let me know if I got that right. Praja. I think I did it. Yes. Yes, I was trying to escape the Matrix by burying myself in more cages. So, yeah, it's addiction. I mean, those systems of rehab and recovery have just been turned into it's just been turned into a process for money. Yeah. A lot of us who do find true transcendence have gone through addiction. We typically tend to be more sensitive in our nature, and we go through a lot, and we see through the veil at a young age. And when we see through that veil, it's not pretty, you know. It's like, I don't like what I see, and then you just start trying to escape in whatever way you can, you know. And it's very common. But when you transcend addiction, you become powerful. You become so powerful in your will. And if you, what up, Nakia? I'm doing well. I'm doing good. I'm prospering. I'm grateful for the breath of life. So much love to you. Thank you for asking. Yeah, it is frustrating if you're talking about what I'm talking about. That to see the world for what it is, and to be, you know, be a sensitive, right, and live in a world full of people who seem to not be. I think more people are than we realize, but they have become numb by choice through survival, you know. And people are trying to just survive. They're trying to get along to survive. So they bury these parts of themselves. At a young age, they begin to bury these parts of themselves, and they become, I mean, more people, I think everyone is an alchemist to a degree. Some more so than others, depending on your environment, circumstances, and your nature. But everyone is an alchemist. Because everyone has the capacity to become a chameleon, right? To alchemize your beingness to your environment. And to get along with the circumstances. We don't have to do that anymore. We can be authentic and prosper. We also don't have to follow these systems, these ideas of lack, these ideas of I have to suffer to survive. We do not have to be beholden to these things. We have been asleep, and we have to, yes, but we have been asleep, but we have to transcend all of those fears and realize that fear comes in all kinds of disguises. I love a band I love a band called Satsang. And man, if you listen to them and you listen to their words, see, that guy gets it, man. And it's beautiful music, and it can bring you into remembrance. It is, Nakia. It is a sad world, but if you get a chance, I don't know if you've been here the whole time, but please try to watch this whole video, because we talk about that. And we talk about how to truly transcend the sadness of this world. And when we realize that we have the power to do that, as a collective, we will begin architecting the new earth. And we can focus and stay fixated on all of those dark things, but we're just feeding, we're perpetuating those cycles. We got to start dreaming and having authentic faith in that those dreams will be made manifest. Because that's what we're doing every day. We are co-creating this world around us. And we're voting for that world every time we step out of our front door to go be a part of it. Now, I'm not saying that we have to suffer and that, again, I started speaking about this. That's why I'm going through this Exodus path. When you truly find divine alignment, it's beautiful how provision comes to you. It's beautiful. And how sacred exchange can actually work. I have the blueprint for my perspective of a sacred exchange system. Right? And this is inevitable. This is happening as we speak. Your monetary systems are hollow. They are being propped up by habit, fear, and conformity. But that's dying quickly. And consciousness is rising quickly. And all of these constructs are naturally going to begin to fall away. That's again what the Exodus path is. It's a graceful shedding of all of those constructs and those programs inside of you that will bring you suffering by the destruction of those bigger constructs. So, and you have to start architecting, start building new subconscious energetic constructs in order for you to become unmovable, unshakable, unbreakable, and in order to alchemize with spirit around you, right? When you have realization that you are the co-creator of your reality, you govern the Merkaba, the light body. You have the power. It is inside of you. When you come into gnosis of this, and you begin to cultivate that power, all of that provision, all of those things you fear will be transcended, and you will begin to experience authentic life. You will step out of all of those constructs. When we do this as a collective, the nature around us will respond. The animal kingdom will respond. The plant kingdom will respond. We now know that plants sing. We know this. Scientifically, we know this. They communicate. They have resemblances of happiness and joy. What we don't know is expansive. But we're getting there. And once you realize how beautiful it can be, because I've seen it in the astral, I've lived it in the Akash. So when you begin to experience these higher states of consciousness, like our shamans used to, you realize how beautiful our world can be. And when we go through that process of an energetic exodus, and we shed ourselves of all of those energies that are that are dampening our consciousness, as co-creators, the reality will respond to us. So the illusion is, if I go through this exodus, if I shed all of these parts of myself living in the construct, I'm gonna suffer. I'm gonna be hungry. I gotta pay this bill. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. That is a lack of faith. That is a lack of knowing your true power. It will be as graceful as you allow it to be. Well, sending your stallion much love. Much love. He's beautiful. You sent me pictures. Meditation is powerful, Nakia. It's very, very powerful. And to appreciate the noise, appreciate the chaos. If you feel frustration, that's you moving through all of that chaos. It's a part of the process, and let your waters calm. You know, let it happen. Don't force it. Right? And meditation is powerful. I also like contemplation, which is a form of meditating on a specific state of beingness. You know, when you contemplate a concept, you can just keep going into that concept and alchemically dissect it, and it brings great insight, and that's how you architect those new constructs in your energetic blueprint. And so when you go into contemplation, it's a powerful thing. So, and I like to contemplate being eternal. You know, if I am eternal, what are the implications? You know, also, if I am the creator, if each human vessel is a node of creation, is co-creating the world around us, then, you know, what are the implications of that? And then we all of a sudden begin to comprehend, that's why propaganda, that's why television, tell their vision, program, meaning your consciousness, to program the dream. If what I'm speaking is bullshit, then none of that would exist. Okay? You have the power to create your world. We have the power to recreate the world around us and to step out of this dream that we've been dwelling in. So, I could go on forever, guys, but I am going to dip out here. It's getting hot and muggy in here, so I want to go put on shorts and chill out, and I'll probably do some meditation myself today. So I'm so grateful that you all stopped by. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. And I love you all. Go forth and prosper, and it's all good, man. It's all good. Fear comes in many disguises. Just remember, it's all good, man. It really is. I love you, brother. I'm so grateful you stopped by. I'm always happy to see you. I'm grateful for your support, and it really means a lot to me. So, and I've been, compelled to really delve into this journey. Much love to you, Nakia. I'm so grateful you stopped by. It means so much to me that people who are local to me, and we have a history, Miss Nakia. We were friends at one time, so it means a lot to me that you stopped by. And I especially want more local people, because I have plans, man. I'm building a community, not a cult, not a religion, just a community where people can come together and feel the power of their essence and energy, and do some deprogramming and to help people on their exodus path. because that's why I'm living it now, because I am going through the basic training of what it means to go through an Exodus. And it's challenging. It's challenging. And many blockages can come to just halt that path. The illusion rears its head, difficulties, fears, and what seems to be like mind-wiping experiences. So you gotta, it's really, invocating, declaring every day, meditation, surrender, standing in your authentic authority, and sovereignty. So, bless you all. I love you guys. Thank you for stopping by. And I'm grateful to remember with you. It's an honor.